The grand alien academy floated between stars like a shining jewel. Its walls were made of crystal alloys, and light from a nearby sun sparkled across its surface. Students from hundreds of worlds came here to study together. Some were tall with long arms, others were covered with scales, feathers, or fur. Their languages mixed in the air, yet translation devices made it possible for them to share ideas freely. The academy was known as a place where knowledge grew beyond boundaries of species. On the first day of a new cycle, excitement filled the wide halls. Students greeted old friends, traded stories, and hurried toward lecture rooms. In the middle of this colorful crowd walked someone who looked very plain compared to the others. Her name was Mira, a young human from Earth. Mira had short, dark hair, brown eyes, and skin that carried the warmth of her world's sun. She wore the standard academy uniform, simple white with a blue stripe, but it looked a little loose on her thin frame, unlike other species who carried devices, glowing crystals, or elegant tools. Mira had only a small bag with notebooks and pencils. Many aliens glanced at her, then looked away without much interest. To them, humans were ordinary, perhaps even unimpressive. Mira felt their eyes but did not mind. She knew humans were rare in this academy. Only a handful had ever studied here before. Most humans remained on their homeworld, focusing on rebuilding their fleets, trading, or exploring near their own system. The galaxy was full of strong and ancient civilizations. To them, Earth seemed small, noisy, and weak. Mira's people had only recently joined the wider community of stars. She walked carefully through the corridor, looking at the displays on the walls. Pictures of great planets filled the halls. One showed the icy mountains of the Thal, another the deep oceans of the Vera, and another the glowing skies of the Rinari. Each planet looked like a paradise in its own way. Mira stopped for a moment and smiled. She thought of her home, a place with many faces, green forests, dry deserts, stormy seas, and frozen poles. Earth was beautiful, but in ways most aliens did not understand. When Mira entered her classroom, she saw rows of seats shaped for different bodies. Some were wide and flat for shell-covered species. Others were tall with hanging grips for winged students. Mira chose a simple chair in the corner. Around her, voices filled the room. A tall student with silver skin whispered to his friend, "Is that one of the Earth folk? I heard they come from a very quiet world." His friend, a scaled creature with golden eyes, chuckled. "Yes, I heard the same. Their planet is soft. No great storms, no deadly predators. They survive only because no one bothers to conquer them." Mira heard every word, though she kept her face calm. She took out her pencil and notebook, ready to write. She was used to such talk. Humans were often underestimated, and here in the academy, the feeling was even stronger. The professor entered, a tall being with 4 arms and a long robe that shimmered like water. His voice carried both authority and kindness. "Welcome, students. Today we begin with introductions. Each of you will tell us your name and the world you call home. We will learn from each other's cultures, for knowledge is not only in books but in stories." One by one, students stood and spoke. A feathered student from Avaris described skies filled with endless winds where their people built floating cities. A crystal-bodied being from Trolloc spoke of caves that glowed with natural energy. Each story brought nods and admiration. When Mira's turn came, she stood slowly. Her voice was soft but steady. "My name is Mira. I come from Earth. We call it the Blue Planet." Some students tilted their heads. Others smiled politely. The professor nodded. "Earth, a young member of the community." "Welcome, Mira." A student with bright green skin raised a hand. "Professor, is it true humans are very weak? I read they cannot survive in harsh climates without machines." Another laughed. "I heard their oceans are safe, their animals small, their storms mild. A world for children." Mira's cheeks grew warm, but she remained calm. She sat down quietly, deciding not to answer just yet. She knew the truth was different, but she also knew it was better to wait for the right moment. The class continued with lessons about planetary environments. Charts showed gravity levels, atmosphere types, and danger ratings. Students compared their worlds proudly. Many spoke of deadly predators or strong storms, showing off as if danger gave honor to their species. Mira listened with care, her pencil moving across paper as she took notes. Yet inside she felt a small spark. They did not understand Earth at all. They thought her world was harmless. They believed humans were fragile. Mira almost smiled. If only they knew. When the class ended, students gathered in groups. Some invited Mira to join them, but mostly with polite curiosity, not real interest. She walked alone toward the academy gardens. The gardens were large, filled with plants from across the galaxy. Flowers glowed with inner light, and trees stretched tall with silver leaves. Mira sat on a bench and looked at the sky through the glass dome. Stars shone like white fire. She wondered how long it would take before the others truly saw her people for what they were. She thought of her childhood on Earth, running through forests where insects buzzed, swimming in seas where unseen creatures moved beneath the waves, hearing thunder crack through storm clouds. She remembered tales of explorers, climbers, and sailors. Humans had always lived close to danger. That was how they grew strong. But here in this academy, no one believed such stories. To them, Earth was a soft place, and humans were just guests in the galaxy's great hall. Mira sighed and closed her notebook. She knew it would not stay this way forever. One day soon, someone would ask the right question. Then she would explain, and the truth would shock them all. For now, she was patient. That night, in her small room, Mira wrote a letter to her family back on Earth. She described the alien students, the laughter, and the lessons. But she also wrote one line that made her smile to herself. They don't know yet. But when the time comes, I will tell them why Earth is a death world. The academy halls buzzed with energy the next morning. Students rushed toward the central lecture hall, their voices mixing in 100 languages. Today was not an ordinary lesson. Today was the day of the world debate, a tradition where students compared the dangers and strengths of their home planets. For many alien species, this was a moment of pride. They would speak of violent storms, terrifying predators, or ancient survival tales, all meant to impress their classmates. Mira walked quietly among them. She held her notebook close, her face calm but thoughtful. She had heard the whispers again as she entered the building. There is the human, one voice said. Yes, the one from the soft world, another answered with a laugh. Mira ignored the words, though she noted them carefully. She had expected this. Few in the galaxy truly understood Earth, and fewer still had ever set foot there. Inside the hall, the professor stood at the front, his forearms spread wide. His robe shimmered as he raised his voice. Students, today you will share the dangers of your homeworlds. The purpose is not to boast, but to understand how environments shape civilizations. You will learn that nature is a teacher, and survival is the first lesson of life. The students cheered. Eager to begin, one by one they stepped forward. A tall, feathered student named Kieran spread his wings proudly. On Avaris, the winds never stop. We live in floating cities above endless storms. The gales can tear apart metal ships, yet we soar through them with grace. Our people learned to master the skies because the skies sought to kill us. The class clapped, impressed. Next came Jorak, a scaled student with golden eyes. On my world of Vera, oceans cover 90% of the surface. They are filled with beasts longer than 10 ships, their jaws able to crush stone. We learn to hunt them and to build ships that ride the waves. Strength is survival. The room hummed with admiration. Another spoke of lava rivers. Another described deserts without water for hundreds of miles. One even told of giant insect swarms that devoured all in their path. Each story added to the growing excitement, and students leaned forward, eager for more. Mira listened, her pencil moving across paper. She respected their stories, but she also noticed a pattern. Each alien described 1 or 2 dangers, sometimes 3. Their worlds had harsh climates or deadly seas or fearsome predators, but rarely all of them together. Earth, she knew, carried them all. Finally, the professor raised a hand. Is there another who wishes to speak? Before Mira could move, a student with silver skin stood and smirked. Professor, we should not forget our human classmate. Let her tell us about her quiet world. Perhaps her greatest danger is the sunburn. Laughter filled the hall. Several students clapped their hands or slapped their tails against the ground in amusement. Mira stayed still for a moment. She could have ignored it. She could have stayed silent. But something inside her told her the time had come. Slowly, Mira stood. She held her notebook but did not open it. Her voice was soft, yet it carried across the hall. My name is Mira. I come from Earth. Many of you think it is soft or safe. But you are wrong. Earth is what we call a death world. The laughter stopped instantly. The word death world was not used lightly. In galactic terms, it meant a place where life was not only difficult, but almost impossible. Few species came from such worlds, and those that did were often feared. The professor tilted his head. Explain, young human. Why would you call your world such a name? Mira took a breath. She looked at the students, their curious faces watching her. On Earth, danger is everywhere. Not in one place, not in one form, but everywhere. Our world tries to kill us every single day. Yet we live. A murmur moved through the crowd. Some leaned closer. Others shook their heads, doubtful. Mira continued. Our lands shake with earthquakes that can destroy whole cities. Mountains erupt with fire, throwing ash that covers the skies. The ground itself breaks open, swallowing villages. Several alien students gasped. Our skies are not calm, she added. Storms form across oceans, spinning with winds that crush houses and tear forests apart. Lightning falls from the clouds, burning what it touches. In some places, storms come every year and still we rebuild. She paused, letting her words settle. The silver-skinned student shifted uneasily, his smirk gone. Our oceans are filled with hunters. Sharks with teeth sharp enough to slice flesh. Jellyfish that sting with poison. Tiny microbes that make the strongest sick. Even in the shallow waters, danger waits. The scaled student Jorak frowned. But surely your people avoid these places. Mira shook her head. No, we swim in the oceans. We fish in them. We cross them with ships. The dangers do not keep us away. We face them, her voice grew steadier. On land, beasts walk with teeth and claws. Some can run faster than us, others can kill with a single strike. Snakes hide in the grass. Spiders carry venom. Even plants can poison. Every step is risk. Yet we live among them. The hall grew quieter with each sentence. Our air itself can betray us. In some places, diseases spread through a single breath. Tiny creatures you cannot see invade the body, bringing fever or worse. We learn to fight them with science, but still they return in new forms. Always we battle for our health. The professor leaned forward, his eyes narrow with focus. And yet you thrive. Yes, Mira said simply. Because we adapt. We are born fragile, yet we become strong. We do not flee from danger. We learn to face it, again and again. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then a small voice from the back whispered, If all this is true, then how did your people survive? Mira turned her head. By refusing to give up. By standing together. By finding ways to turn weakness into strength. We build tools. We share knowledge. We endure pain. That is why we live. The hall sat in silence, heavy and thick. The aliens who once laughed now stared at Mira with wide eyes. Some looked uneasy. Others showed quiet respect. The professor finally spoke. Students, remember this lesson well. Do not judge a world by its surface, and do not judge a species by its size or its ships, for sometimes the smallest star burns the hottest flame. The debate ended soon after. Groups of students gathered in hushed voices whispering about Earth and its hidden dangers. Mira sat back down, her heart steady. She had not shouted, nor had she tried to frighten anyone. She had only spoken the truth. As the students left the hall, many glanced at her differently. No longer with laughter, but with caution and something else. Respect. Mira closed her notebook and walked toward the door. She knew this was only the beginning. The others had asked for stories of her world. She had given them the first taste. Soon they would learn just how much a human could endure. And perhaps they would finally understand why no one should mistake Earth for a harmless place. The academy halls were quieter than usual after the debate. Students still talked about it, but their voices carried a new weight. For the first time, many of them looked at Mira not with laughter but with uneasy curiosity. She had planted a seed in their minds and now they wanted to know more. When Mira entered her next class, she felt the stares. A group of students who once mocked her now whispered among themselves, stealing glances in her direction. The silver-skinned student who had teased her before kept his eyes down, avoiding her gaze. Even the professor seemed more careful when addressing her. The lesson of the day was about planetary survival strategies. The professor spoke of adaptation, how each species learned to overcome the threats of their world. He described armor, flight, camouflage, and natural weapons. Then he looked toward Mira. Human student, he said gently. Yesterday you spoke of many dangers. Today perhaps you can give us examples of how your people survive. Tell us the stories of Earth so we may understand. The room grew still. Every eye turned to her. Mira set down her pencil and stood. All right, she said softly. I will tell you some examples. Then you can decide for yourselves what kind of place Earth is. She began with predators. On Earth there are animals called wolves. They hunt in groups, moving silently through forests. Alone they can bring down prey larger than themselves. Together they are almost unstoppable. But humans did not run from wolves. We learned to study them, to copy their ways. We formed our own groups, we built fire to keep them away, and we hunted side by side. From wolves, we learned loyalty and teamwork. Some students nodded, impressed. Others shifted uneasily. Then there are lions, she continued. Strong beasts with claws sharp enough to kill in one strike. They hide in tall grass, waiting to pounce. They roar and the sound shakes the air. Yet humans faced them too. We built weapons, we learned courage, and we stood together against them. She looked around the room. Do you see the pattern? Every predator on Earth is deadly. But instead of fleeing forever, humans learned to face them. That is how we survived. She moved on to climates. Our deserts are endless stretches of sand. The sun burns so hot it can kill in a single day. Water is rare, and the winds bury villages beneath dunes. Yet humans cross them, step by step, using the stars as their guide. We carried water, we learned to read the land, and we built homes even where the earth was cruel. On the other side, Mira said, our poles are covered in ice. Temperatures fall so low that flesh freezes in moments. Storms rage with blinding snow, and the nights can last for months. Yet humans went there too. We built clothes from furs, we made fires, and we built shelters. We refused to let the cold stop us. Some students whispered in surprise. Most species stayed away from their most dangerous lands. Yet humans went everywhere. Then Mira spoke of the oceans. The seas are not gentle. They are deep, dark, and filled with creatures that can kill. Sharks swim with endless hunger, their teeth like knives. Jellyfish float, looking harmless, yet their sting burns like fire. Even tiny things invisible to the eye can sicken us. And yet humans sail across oceans. We dive into the waves. We build ships and cross the waters even when storms rise higher than mountains. The scaled student Jorak frowned. Why would you risk such dangers? Why not stay on safe land? Mira's eyes met his. Because humans are not satisfied with safety. We always want to see what lies beyond, even if danger waits there. The room was silent now, but Mira was not finished. Earth is not only dangerous in its beasts and seas. Even the smallest things can kill us. Tiny insects carry sickness in their bite. Plants grow with poison in their leaves. Some mushrooms feed us, others strike us dead. Our people had to learn again and again what was safe and what was not. We learned by trial, by mistake, and by survival. Every human alive today carries the lessons of thousands of years. The silver-skinned student raised a trembling hand. But if everything is so dangerous, why did your people not die out long ago? Mira's voice was calm. Because we do not give up. When something tries to kill us, we study it. We learn its weakness. We make tools, weapons, medicines. We adapt faster than the dangers can change. That is why we are still here. The professor leaned forward, clearly fascinated. Tell us, human, what is the greatest danger of all on your world? Mira thought for a moment, then answered. The world itself. Gasps filled the hall, she continued. Our world shakes with earthquakes. Entire cities can fall in moments. The ground splits, fire rises, and mountains move. We cannot stop it. We can only build stronger, prepare better, and survive after it happens. Our mountains also erupt. They throw fire and ash into the skies, darkening the world for months. Yet still, we live in their shadows. Our storms cross oceans, spinning with winds that destroy anything in their path. Our rivers flood, our lands crack with drought, and our skies burn with lightning. Every part of our world carries danger, but humans never ran from it. We stayed, we fought, we built, we endured. The silence in the hall grew heavier with each word. Students who once laughed now stared in awe. Some leaned back as if distance could protect them from the image Mira painted. She gave one final example. Even space itself was a danger to us. We were fragile creatures on a fragile world, yet we looked up at the stars and said, we will go there too. With ships made of metal and fire, we broke free of our planet. We crossed into the void, even when many of us did not return, because we could not stop reaching higher. Her voice softened. This is what it means to come from Earth, to live in a place that never forgives, that never rests, that never makes life easy. We call it home. We call it beautiful, but it is also our trial, and that is why we are strong. The professor finally spoke, his voice low with respect. Thank you, Mira of Earth. You have given us much to consider. The class ended, but no one rushed out. Groups of students gathered, whispering about humans and their death world. Some looked afraid, others fascinated. A few even looked at Mira with admiration. As she packed her notebook, the silver-skinned student who once mocked her approached. His voice was quiet now. I did not believe you before, but I think I do now. Your world is not soft, and neither are your people. Mira smiled faintly. That is all I wanted you to understand. When she left the hall, the whispers followed her. Stories of Earth spread quickly from one student to another. Soon the whole academy would know. Mira walked calmly through the gardens, her steps steady. She knew the truth had only begun to take root. The galaxy had thought humans harmless, but now they would start to wonder. And once the wondering began, fear and respect would not be far behind. The academy soon became a place of quiet rumors. In every corridor, whispers followed Mira. The name DEATHWORLD passed from one mouth to another, first with disbelief, then with nervous respect. Students from distant planets who had never spoken to Mira before now stared when she walked by, as if trying to see some hidden strength inside her. At first, Mira kept to herself. She studied, wrote in her notebook, and joined lessons without speaking unless asked. But the curiosity of others only grew stronger. Soon, groups of students began gathering around her after classes. Some asked questions with wide eyes. Others challenged her words, hoping to prove them false. Mira answered patiently, always with calm detail, and each time she spoke, the unease in her listeners deepened. The change became clear during one of the largest lectures, held in the Grand Hall. This hall was vast, shaped like a star dome. Light from galaxies far away shone through the transparent ceiling, making the students feel like they floated in space. It was a place used for the most important lessons. The professor, dressed in his shimmering robe, raised his forearms for silence. Today, he said, we continue our study of survival and adaptation, but instead of charts and numbers, we will hear stories, true stories of what it means to live with danger. Many students turned toward Mira immediately. The professor noticed and gave a small nod. Mira of Earth, you have already told us of predators, storms, and oceans, but I sense you carry more. Will you share with us? Mira rose slowly, her notebook in hand. Her heart beat steadily. She knew this was the moment the truth would be spoken fully. She began with history. Long ago, Mira said, humans lived in small tribes. The world was harsh and survival was not certain. Wild beasts hunted us. Storms destroyed our shelters. Hunger followed us often. Yet humans learned to build fire, to make weapons, and to stand together. That is how we grew. She paused, letting her eyes pass over the crowd. But even as we grew, Earth tested us again and again. Her voice grew stronger. We faced ice ages, when the world froze and food vanished. Still we endured. We faced droughts, when rivers dried and crops withered. Still we adapted. We faced plagues, sicknesses that swept across lands, taking millions, yet we survived each one. Every danger that should have ended us only made us stronger. The hall was silent. Students leaned forward. Listening closely, Mira continued. On other worlds, one or two dangers shape a people. But on Earth, all dangers came at once. We did not have the choice to face only storms, or only predators, or only disease. We faced them all together, and still we lived. That is the truth of our world. A feathered student raised his wing. But why? Why would your kind risk so much? Why not leave the dangerous places and stay only where life is calm? Mira gave a small smile. Because humans are not content with calm. We are driven to explore, to see what lies beyond the safe path. If a mountain stands in our way, we climb it. If an ocean blocks our path, we cross it. If a storm breaks our home, we rebuild stronger. It is who we are. The professor's eyes shone with interest. So danger did not push you back, it pushed you forward. Yes, Mira answered simply. It shaped us. Then she shared something more personal. My grandfather once told me a story, she said. When he was young, he worked on ships that crossed the seas. Storms would rise higher than buildings, waves crashing with endless force. Many times the ships almost sank. But the sailors did not turn back. They tied themselves to the deck, they worked through wind and water, and they kept the ship alive until the storm passed. That is the human way. Even when nature tries to break us, we refuse to let go. We cling, we fight, and we survive. The silver-skinned student who had once mocked her asked in a quiet voice, "And what of your people's journeys to the stars? How did such a fragile species manage such a thing?" Mira's eyes lifted toward the dome ceiling, where stars glittered beyond the glass. "Because we never stopped looking up. Even when we had nothing but simple tools, we watched the skies. We dreamed of reaching them. We built rockets from fire and metal, sending them upward, even when they broke, even when they failed. Some never returned, but still we tried again, until one day we walked on our own moon. From that moment we knew nothing was beyond us." The hall stirred with shock. To many alien species, space travel was natural, a gift of their advanced ancestors. But Mira's story showed that humans had clawed their way upward, fighting against the pull of their own world. Another student whispered, "If your people survived all of this, what happens if you ever decide to turn your strength against others?" A chill spread across the hall. Many students looked at each other nervously. For the first time, the thought of humanity as a threat crossed their minds. Mira's voice was calm as she answered, "We did not survive to conquer others. We survived to grow, to learn, to see what lies beyond. But remember this, our kindness should never be mistaken for weakness. If danger comes, if someone threatens our future, we will fight as we always have. And we will endure." Her words hung in the air like thunder. The professor finally raised his arms. "Students, what you have heard today is more than a lesson in survival. It is a reminder that strength comes in many forms. Do not underestimate those who seem fragile. Often the hardest steel is forged in the hottest fire." The students sat in silence, their eyes fixed on Mira. Some looked fearful, others thoughtful, and a few even inspired. When the lecture ended, groups formed immediately. Voices carried across the hall. "Did you hear? Earth faced all those dangers at once. No wonder they are so determined. Imagine if they ever united fully." The whispers spread like wildfire. Mira gathered her notebook and walked out calmly, but she knew the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. Later that evening, Mira stood in the academy gardens. The alien flowers glowed faintly under the starlight, and the air was cool and still. She looked at the stars through the dome, thinking of her people back on Earth. She whispered to herself, "Now they understand. At least a little." In the quiet of the garden, she felt both the weight of her words and the strength of her people. She had told the shocking truth. Not to frighten, not to boast, but simply to be honest. And in that honesty, the galaxy had finally begun to fear and respect humans. The news of Mira's lecture spread quickly through the academy. By morning, nearly every student had heard the tales of Earth's DEATHWORLD hazards and the courage of its people. Some whispered in awe, others in disbelief, but all of them carried a new sense of caution when thinking about humans. Mira walked to her first class of the day, her steps steady. The once laughing students now kept their distance, eyes following her with a mixture of curiosity and respect. She could feel the weight of their changed perceptions, but she did not let it trouble her. This was not about fear. It was about understanding. Her first lesson was history. The professor, a four-armed being with iridescent scales, motioned for silence. Today, we will discuss the way civilizations survive through challenge. Let us consider examples of adaptation, endurance, and ingenuity. Several students whispered Mira's name. The professor noticed and gave her a nod. "Mira, perhaps you would like to continue sharing your stories?" Mira rose slowly. She had already told her classmates about predators, storms, oceans, and the very dangers of the Earth itself. But today she would explain something more profound, the way humans turn danger into strength. "On Earth," she began, "danger is never far. Every moment a human may face a storm, a predator, or a sickness. Yet we do not cower. We do not flee forever. We learn, we plan, and we act. Survival is not luck, it is training, intelligence, and courage." She looked around the hall. "Consider the explorers of our past. They crossed deserts with no water. They climbed mountains where the air is too thin to breathe. They built ships that sailed across oceans filled with unknown beasts and storms that could sink entire fleets. Every step was a risk, yet they went forward. And they did not go alone. Communities stood together, sharing strength, knowledge, and tools. That is why humans endure where many others would fail. The alien students were silent, staring at her with wide eyes. Some even leaned closer as if trying to absorb every word. Humans, she continued, also fight for others, not just themselves. We protect the weak, care for the sick, and share knowledge across generations. That is how we survive not only as individuals, but as a species. Our strength is in our minds, our courage, and our ability to work together. And because of this, humans are capable of things others believe impossible. We have flown into space, built cities in deserts, crossed frozen oceans, and learned to live in climates that would kill any ordinary creature. The galaxy may think us fragile, but that is far from the truth. We have learned to thrive where few others could survive. A low murmur spread through the hall. Even the most confident students were now questioning what they thought they knew. One student finally spoke aloud. If humans are so strong, why do you not dominate the galaxy? Why do you not conquer worlds like others? Mira shook her head gently. Because strength is not only about conquest. Humans survive to discover, to create, to learn, and to protect. We do not need to prove ourselves by harming others. Our challenge is the world itself, not other species. That is why we are respected, and why we are feared when necessary. The silver-skinned student who had mocked her on the first day looked ashamed. I understand now, he said quietly. Your people are not weak at all. They have survived trials no other species would dare face. Yes, Mira said softly, and that is why no one should mistake kindness for weakness. We survive not to fight, but we are ready if danger ever comes. That is the truth of humans. After the class, small groups of students gathered around her. They asked questions, each one more careful than the last. What is the hardest challenge your people faced? Asked a winged student. Mira smiled. Every challenge is hard until it is faced. For some, it is the storm. For others, the predator. For others, still the sickness that spreads unseen. But all of us, every human alive today, has faced something. That is our way. No one survives alone. We help each other. We endure together. That is what makes us strong. Another asked, and your world, is it safe now? Mira shook her head. No world is ever safe. But we make it possible to live, to grow, to dream. That is enough. Safety is never the goal. Survival, courage, and knowledge, that is the goal. The students listened, enraptured. Even those who once ridiculed her now spoke quietly, almost in reverence. In the following days, Mira noticed a subtle but clear change. Students no longer assumed humans were weak. Some species that had once sought to compete with her openly now showed respect from a distance. Others asked to join her for lessons, wanting to understand more about Earth's challenges and how humans had survived them. Even the professor remarked on the change. Mira, you have done more than teach about your planet. You have taught about courage, endurance, and the power of adaptability. The entire academy now sees humans differently. Mira nodded. She had no desire for praise. She only wanted the truth to be known. Later, Mira sat in the gardens under the starlight. The alien plants glowed softly, casting strange shadows. She thought of Earth, the forests, deserts, oceans, and mountains. She thought of her ancestors who had climbed, sailed, and survived despite impossible odds. She whispered to herself, now they understand. Not everything about Earth is easy, but every challenge makes us stronger. That is why humans endure, and that is why no one should underestimate us. A small group of students approached. They had come not to mock, but to listen. Human, said a young scaled student, I used to believe your world was soft, but now I see it is a world that shapes warriors, and you are the proof of that, Mira smiled. It is not only me. Every human is proof. Every person who has faced the world, survived, and built something new. That is what makes Earth a death world, and what makes humans capable of anything. The students nodded, a new understanding growing in their minds. The academy itself began to change. Lectures started including humans as examples of adaptability, courage, and problem-solving. Other species began sharing their own challenges with a newfound humility, realizing that surviving a harsh world was not easy, no matter how advanced they were. Mira continued her studies, but her presence had left a lasting mark. Wherever she went, the whispers followed. Whispers not of mockery, but of awe and respect. Students who once ignored humans now treated them carefully, aware that beneath the quiet exterior lay a species capable of extraordinary endurance. One evening, the professor approached Mira in the quiet halls. "You have done something rare," he said. "You have changed minds not through force but through truth. That is the greatest kind of strength." Mira nodded. "It is not about force. It is about honesty, about showing what we have endured, what we have learned, and what we can do. That is the real power of humans." The professor smiled. "Indeed. Let the galaxy know it well." As Mira walked back to her quarters that night, she felt a sense of calm. Her mission was simple yet profound: to show the galaxy that humans were not fragile, that Earth was no ordinary world, and that survival through constant danger had forged a species unlike any other. She looked up at the stars, feeling the presence of countless worlds around her. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. Now a new chapter had begun, a chapter where humans would no longer be dismissed, a chapter where their endurance, courage, and adaptability would be recognized, not just respected but remembered. And somewhere deep in her heart, Mira knew that this was only the beginning. Humans had faced the death world of Earth. One day they might face challenges even greater, but the galaxy would never again doubt the strength that comes from surviving where survival seems impossible. The stars twinkled above her, silent witnesses to a truth that would echo across the academy, and eventually across the universe. Humans were not to be underestimated.